Imagine building so much wealth that even after the government destroys your company, your fortune keeps growing. John D. Rockefeller didn't just become rich, he built a system that money itself couldn't escape. And that system still exists today. John D. Rockefeller didn't just become rich, he built a system so powerful that even the laws designed to stop him failed to touch his wealth. And that system still exists today. Before tech giants, before hedge funds, before global banks, there was one name that defined money, power, and control in America. John D. Rockefeller. At the height of his power, Rockefeller controlled nearly 90% of America's oil refining industry. His personal fortune was estimated at 1.5 to 2% of the entire U.S. economy. Adjusted to today's numbers, that's hundreds of billions of dollars, more than Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, or Warren Buffett ever held relative to their time. But numbers alone don't explain Rockefeller. To understand how he built wealth that refuses to die, we have to go back, not to oil fields or boardrooms, but to a quiet, unstable childhood. John Davison Rockefeller was born in 1839 in Richford, New York. On the surface, he was completely ordinary. No elite bloodline, no inherited empire, no early signs of greatness. What he did have was chaos. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, was a deeply unreliable man. He was a traveling salesman, a con artist, and later a so-called doctor who sold homemade cures of questionable value. He disappeared for months at a time, lived a double life, and even kept a second family in secret. Young John grew up never knowing when money would come or vanish. And that uncertainty carved something permanent into him. Where other children learned play, John learned control. Where others trusted people, he trusted numbers. From a very young age, Rockefeller kept meticulous records of every cent he earned and spent. He didn't just save money, he tracked it obsessively. Order became his refuge. Discipline became his armor. Unlike the loud, reckless men around him, John was quiet, reserved, calculated. People didn't notice him, and that was exactly how he liked it. As a teenager, Rockefeller left school early and took a job as an assistant bookkeeper. The pay was laughable, just 50 cents a day, but to John, the job offered something far more valuable than money. It offered visibility. For the first time, he could see how businesses actually worked. Cash flow, costs, margins. While others dreamed of getting rich, Rockefeller studied how companies stayed alive. He saved nearly every dollar he earned. And when he was ready, he did something risky but deliberate. He borrowed money from his unreliable father, combining it with his own savings to step into business. This wasn't desperation. This was calculation. In 1859, at just 20 years old, Rockefeller entered the commodities business, trading produce and petroleum products. At the same time, something historic was unfolding in America. Oil had just been discovered in Pennsylvania. Most people saw oil as a gamble. Chaotic drilling, uncertain yields, boom or bust fortunes. Everyone wanted to be the man who found oil. Rockefeller didn't. He saw something others missed. Drilling was unpredictable. Refining was stable. While prospectors chased luck, Rockefeller chased systems. He also understood geography. Cleveland, Ohio, his base, sat perfectly between the oil fields of Pennsylvania and the major rail and shipping routes of the Midwest. It was an ideal refining hub, connected to transportation networks that could move massive volumes efficiently. Rockefeller wasn't early by accident. He was early because he understood structure. By the early 1860s, he and his partners had accumulated enough capital to open their own refinery. And this is where a crucial pattern appears, one that defines the rest of his life. Rockefeller did not believe in sentiment. He believed in performance. When early partners failed to match his discipline, he bought them out without hesitation. Loyalty did not protect you. Efficiency did. This ruthless mindset often gets framed as cruelty, and sometimes it was, but at its core, Rockefeller believed something deeply. Business was not a place for emotion. It was a machine, and machines must be optimized. As America's oil demand surged, Rockefeller positioned himself not as a gambler, but as a gatekeeper. He wasn't chasing oil, he was controlling what happened after oil was found. By the time most of his competitors realized what was happening, Rockefeller had already laid the foundation for something far bigger than a refinery. He was building control, predictability, and eventually, permanence. And this was only the beginning, because once Rockefeller learned how to control costs, the next step was inevitable. He would learn how to control the market. By the late 1860s, John D. Rockefeller had already learned the most important rule of capitalism. Control beats competition. While other oil men chased bigger discoveries, Rockefeller chased smaller costs. He wasn't obsessed with oil itself, he was obsessed with efficiency. And in a young, chaotic industry, efficiency was a weapon. In 1870, at just 31 years old, Rockefeller incorporated Standard Oil. This wasn't just a business decision. It was a declaration of intent. From day one, Standard Oil was built differently. Where competitors relied on instinct and risk, Rockefeller relied on systems. Every process was measured. Every cost was scrutinized. Every waste stream was questioned. Rockefeller believed waste was immoral. If oil could be refined further, it would be. If a byproduct could be sold, it would be monetized. If a process could be made cheaper, it would be redesigned. Under his leadership, Standard Oil refined oil more cheaply, more consistently, and at higher quality than anyone else in the market. That alone would have made him successful. But Rockefeller didn't stop at efficiency. He wanted dominance. To achieve this, he invested aggressively in research and development, something almost unheard of at the time. Chemists were brought in not as assistants, but as core strategists. Their job was simple: extract value where others saw waste. One of Rockefeller's most controversial moves was his focus on so-called worthless oil fields. In Ohio, many deposits produced sour oil, filled with impurities and considered unusable by most refiners. Rockefeller saw opportunity. He poured money into experimentation until his teams developed methods to remove the impurities. What was once rejected became profitable, and suddenly Standard Oil had access to resources others had abandoned. This pattern repeated again and again. Where competitors saw limitations, Rockefeller saw leverage. But efficiency and innovation were only half the strategy. The real power of Standard Oil came from scale. As Rockefeller's operations grew, he began negotiating directly with railroads. Instead of paying standard shipping rates, he offered something irresistible: guaranteed, massive volume. 60 carloads of oil per day. In exchange, railroads gave Standard Oil secret rebates, discounts so deep that Rockefeller could ship oil cheaper than his competitors could ship empty barrels. This wasn't just an advantage. It was a death sentence for anyone trying to compete. Small refiners faced an impossible choice: sell to Rockefeller or be crushed by costs they couldn't control. And Rockefeller was always ready to buy. When a competitor struggled, Standard Oil offered what it called fair market prices. On paper, it looked reasonable. In reality, those prices existed only because Standard Oil had already undercut them into desperation. This wasn't competition. It was absorption. In the first 3 months of 1872 alone, Rockefeller either bought out, shut down, or bankrupted 22 of Cleveland's 26 refineries. Entire businesses disappeared almost overnight. To the public, Rockefeller became infamous. Newspapers portrayed him as an octopus, its tentacles wrapping around railroads, banks, politicians, and state governments. His empire wasn't just oil, it seemed to touch everything. Yet Rockefeller remained almost invisible. He avoided the press. He gave no interviews. He made no speeches. Silence became another form of control. Behind closed doors, Standard Oil continued consolidating power. The company vertically integrated nearly every part of the oil industry: production, refining, transportation, storage, and sales. By owning the pipeline, the refinery, the tank cars, and the distribution network, Rockefeller eliminated dependency on outsiders. Standard Oil became self-contained, insulated from shocks that ruined others. To critics, this was monopolistic tyranny. To Rockefeller, it was simply good management. In 1872, Rockefeller took his boldest step yet, backing the Southern Improvement Company, a secretive scheme designed to fix transportation rates nationwide. The plan would have locked in Standard Oil's advantage permanently. But this time, he miscalculated. When the public learned of the plan, outrage exploded. Protests erupted. Politicians panicked. Railroads backed out. The scheme collapsed almost instantly. For the first time, Rockefeller encountered a force stronger than money. A unified public. He learned a crucial lesson. Even absolute power has limits. Yet despite public hatred and political resistance, Standard Oil's dominance continued to grow. By the late 1880s, the company controlled nearly 90% of America's oil refining capacity. Rockefeller had effectively monopolized the energy supply of an entire nation. But this level of control came at a cost. The larger Standard Oil grew, the harder it became to hide. Journalists began digging deeper. Politicians, under electoral pressure, began drafting laws designed specifically to limit companies like Rockefeller's. What Rockefeller built was unprecedented and unstable. The machine was too big, too powerful, too visible. And while Rockefeller believed he had perfected control, the system was already preparing to strike back. Because once the government decided to move, it wouldn't be efficiency it attacked. It would be power itself. By the early 1900s, Standard Oil had become impossible to ignore. What once looked like brilliant management was now labeled corporate tyranny. Public anger, fueled by investigative journalists and political reformers, finally reached Washington. In 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court made its decision. Standard Oil was declared an illegal monopoly. The ruling ordered the company to be broken into 34 separate corporations. On paper, it looked like Rockefeller had lost everything. His empire was shattered. His control dismantled. His life's work destroyed by law. But the story didn't end there. Because the court misunderstood something fundamental about John D. Rockefeller. They broke the company, not the ownership. Rockefeller didn't lose his shares. He received stock in every new company created from Standard Oil's breakup. And something unexpected happened. Freed from internal bureaucracy, those companies began to grow faster than Standard Oil ever had as a single entity. Investors rushed in. Stock prices surged. Within a year, Rockefeller's personal wealth had increased dramatically. Companies like Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, and Amoco, all born from Standard Oil, went on to dominate global energy markets for decades. The monopoly was gone, but the system survived. Rockefeller had unknowingly created the perfect wealth structure, distributed control with concentrated ownership. He no longer needed to manage operations. He no longer needed to fight regulators. His money worked quietly, multiplying in the background. To the public, Standard Oil's breakup was a victory. To Rockefeller, it was the final evolution of his strategy. He stepped away from business, turning his focus to philanthropy, donating unprecedented sums to universities, medical research, and public institutions. But the truth remained uncomfortable. The government had destroyed his company and made him richer in the process. And that raises a dangerous question. If Rockefeller's wealth survived the full force of the U.S. government, what kind of wealth can ever truly die? After building and surviving Standard Oil, Rockefeller didn't just hoard wealth, he engineered its immortality. Through family offices, trusts, and strategic philanthropy, he ensured that generations would inherit not just money, but control. The Rockefeller Foundation reshaped public health, education, and global development, extending influence far beyond oil. His fortune wasn't just earned, it was systematized, designed to outlast him, governments, and even changing markets. Rockefeller's true genius? He didn't create wealth. He created a system that makes wealth eternal.